I'm going to clear out my console here. Press the clear button there. And then I'm going to create a new variable, var my_num equals 10. Sure, we'll put that in there. And then I'm going to make another variable, var my_num as string. I'm going to make a variable there and we'll call it 5. But that variable, again, is a string. Now, it's important to note that even though JavaScript is loosely typed, it doesn't mean that variables don't have a type. So if I do type of, which is a method that allows me to pass in a variable like my_num, it'll tell me that it is in fact a number. Whereas if I do type of my_num is string, I can actually pick it from the list here so I don't have to type the whole thing. It'll tell me that's a string. If I make a variable var undefined variable and leave it empty, so there's nothing in here, I could do type of undefined variable to get my variable here. And you'll see that I get undefined. Or I could do var nothing at all and assign it null. And I could do type of nothing at all. And I get object. So that's kind of interesting. So these are all very different variables with different values. And that's an important thing to understand about JavaScript, but they do have type associated with them. Let's try one more. I'm going to make another variable, var empty string. And I'm going to assign it a couple of quotes. And if I do type of empty string, you'll see even though there's nothing in there, there's nothing really assigned to this variable, the fact that I put a pair of quotes there means that it is in fact a string. It's also kind of important to note that I could use single quotes or double quotes in JavaScript. They do the same thing. So it doesn't really matter if you use single quotes or double quotes at all. Now, if you want to find out more about the type of method, you could come over here and just Google JavaScript type of. And the MDN will come up very quickly, if not the first. Sometimes you'll get W3 schools. The MDN, which is the Mozilla Developer Network, is the definitive resource for web technology such as HTML and CSS. And we'll give you a lot of information about different methods and different things you can use. And we'll be referring a lot to the MDN throughout this course, sometimes the W3 Schools website as well. But the MDN really is sort of the definitive resource, but it can be a little bit confusing at first. So sometimes the W3 Schools website's a little bit easier to understand, but the MDN is very thorough. Okay, so that gives us kind of a very basic start at creating some variables that can hold different pieces of data. And at this point, you're probably wondering, yeah, so what? But remember that as we're learning a language, right now we're just learning the alphabet. And the letters by themselves don't really do all that much. It's not until you start putting them together to form words that can start to have meaning. So we'll be working on some more of these very basic elements of JavaScript. But then pretty quickly, we're going to be getting into more interesting aspects of the language, and you'll be creating more interesting little programs that will actually do things on web pages and on websites.